Hi there and welcome to Family Research Tips. I'm Holly Brownin from the Lebanon Public Library and thanks for joining me today. Today's episode I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can preserve your family heirlooms and different ways to safekeep those heirlooms so they stay in the best shape that they can possibly be in when you want to continue the cycle and pass them down to the next generation. Usually these are items that are very, very important to us and we don't want them to go through any further damage by something that we mistakenly do or mistakenly put them in a place where that they don't go or use a commercial cleaner on something that it would damage the material. So I thought I'd do a couple little tips. I have 3 little items here that I'm going to kind of go through and show you maybe just different ways of gently cleaning these items or ways that you can kind of keep them in safe places so nothing that will happen to them. So there are 3 ways that you can safekeep your precious family heirlooms, and that is through environment, storage, and cleaning, okay? So those 3 factors you got to factor in with an heirloom. And the first thing, first of all, for preserving something, the definition of preserving something, is maintaining an artifact in its current condition and preventing further harm to it. Because we know it's not going to be in perfect shape because it's antique, it's an older piece. So like I said, the 3 basic ways you can do that is through environment, storage, and cleaning. So in front of me, I have a few different pieces of what you may have as a family keepsake. So we're going to start with the quilt, okay? I have a vintage quilt here that was from my great-grandmother. And a lot of the time, there are really cute pieces where you can kind of hang the quilts as a display. A lot of people have quilts as displays. And my piece of advice for that is, definitely if you have more than one piece, I would keep a rotation going because you do not want to have the same piece out always because it's not really good for the piece. So if you want to keep a rotation going, that would probably be your best bet with quilts. Another idea, let's see. You definitely want to keep it away from extreme temperatures, okay? And that's true with any antique. Light, heat, that it will warp, it will cause damage. So a lot of the times people, including myself, I've made this mistake where I will store things in a basement. And that is not a good idea, especially for when we get talking to books because they will mildew and you'll never be able to open them again. So for something like a quilt, okay, let's say if you take it down from where you're displaying it, you can buy acid-free boxes, okay? And they're big boxes that you can get and you can order at the store, and they say acid-free, and so they're the best bet to put things like linens and cloth in and wrap them in. And perfect places to keep these would be under your bed or in a closet. Places that aren't going to fluctuate, like an attic, or like I said, a basement. So, those are some good ideas with that. Another thing I want to talk about is washing. You don't really want to wash something that's vintage. You don't want to put it just through the wash with the other stuff, especially with the commercial cleaners like Tide and those things. I would recommend not washing it. I know that sounds crazy, but if you do want to wash it, I would call a local conservator or maybe the history museums and see a way that you can do that without harming your piece. Now, I know one of the ways that you can make it nice, kind of get dust off if it's on display is I brought a vacuum cleaner attachment. And what you can do is you can either put, I know it sounds crazy, but you can either put a piece of mesh or a piece of pantyhose and use a rubber band, and it'll enable you to kind of get the little pieces of dirt without using such hard suction, which you don't want to do to mess up any kind of buttons or strings that are already kind of loose on the material. So that always works. And like I said, I didn't have any pantyhose because I don't wear pantyhose. So I'm missing that, but that or either a piece of mesh works fine. Now the second item I want to talk about, which a lot of people have for keepsakes, is ceramics, like this, this here. And with ceramics, minimal is better. So I wouldn't white pledge around any piece of ceramic. Especially you're going to want to see if it's glazed or unglazed. And usually an unglazed ceramic piece like this is a lot more porous, okay? And with porous items, you're going to want to, maybe even if it's a really old piece, use gloves because of the oils in your hands. And that goes for any piece. You're going to want, depending on the piece, I don't necessarily think you have to wear gloves when handling a quilt. I would just have dry, clean hands. But for something like this, when it's not glazed, like at the bottom here, a microfiber cloth of any kind is the best. And to be honest, I mean, it's just gently wiping around. Honestly, you don't want to strip it anymore. You don't want to damage it. So that's what I would recommend in cleaning the item. Storage, I'm pretty sure storage is in the same way. No extreme temperatures. It causes things to expand and warp. So just kind of the same idea. Wouldn't necessarily do attics or basements. The last item that I have, I borrowed one of the the yearbooks from the library. This is a 1931 trilobite. And I know some of you have these kind of items as family heirlooms and keepsakes. So with old books, I would definitely keep them, you can keep them on display in an upright, sturdy cabinet. You make sure wherever you put them that it's a clean surface, not really a place that's going to collect a lot of dust. And with this, you also keep away from extreme temps. Like I said, it's really important not to put books in a basement. I have learned the hard way. I actually lost my yearbook that way. It had mildew all over it, and I had to throw away the yearbook, which is terrible. So you're definitely going to keep those out of those areas where there's extreme temp. And I would not sit it in an area that has light coming in all day. That's definitely going to be very harmful to books that you have set out. Now, if it's a super, super old, from the 1800s, I would definitely use gloves. You don't want to transfer oil to the papers. You got to be very delicate with those books. And I know the Historical Society or even the museum here right next to the library can give you some tips and help you out in that. So no cleaners of any kind, no commercial cleaners. They're just not good for antiques. And most people do know that. Yeah, and I think that's just make sure your hands are clean. On some, if you're not sure and you want to wear gloves, it's a great idea. I mean, people don't realize how much oil that we have on our hands and how much of it transfers. So those can really, after a while, after they're handled so much, cause a lot of damage. So the biggest thing to take away from the message today is minimal is better. It doesn't have to be super clean, super shiny. It's an antique. You want it to last as long as it can because you want to keep passing that down to the next generation so they can enjoy it. So if you have any questions, you can always email me at hollybrowning@lebanonlibrary.org, and I will see you again in 2 weeks. So thanks for watching.